Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting, August 15th, 2023. We are being recorded by LakeCAM, so let's go around like we always do and identify ourselves and who we represent.
Paula Houle from the Park Commission.
Nancy Lefebvre from the Lakeville Historical Commission.
Kathleen Barrick, member at large.
Nancy Yates, Conservation.
Michelle McEachern, Planning Board.
Susan Spieler, member at large.
All right, here we are. So the first item on the agenda is the,
We forgot Kathy.
oh, I'm sorry, Kathy.
Kathy Murray, Planning Department.
Mark Resnick, Planning Department.
Okay. Okay, CPA budget review and clarification. Mr. Resnick?
Oh, yes, so I went up and talked to Todd about the, and he says the reason why it says negative 220 is that's just how the program spits it out, but it's really, we do have received $220,000 in last year's receipts. So from the collections from the 12 months ending June 30th. And then the penalties and interest was subtracted. I did talk to Erica and she was going to look into why that's subtracted. And, you know, I think Todd and I agreed, we thought that should be a plus. And then because that comes through the treasurer's office instead. So, and then earnings on investment, because it says negative, is actually a plus. So if you, and so that's why we're at 221,056 and 21.6. So, and hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have the final answer on that other one.
Okay, CP3 filing update, Kathleen?
So I spoke with Chase at the coalition. He needed to help me enroll, first of all, with username and access. And I explained, as I was going through the site, I said to him, we do not have any approved projects from town meeting votes. So he said not to enter any information on the website since nothing has been approved formally by the town meeting, and that is what is required. So Nancy then suggested that I verify this. Really good point, because we do not want to jeopardize our match. And Chase told me that we would not jeopardize it, but still, I spoke with Todd. He was very helpful. He contacted someone at the Department of Revenue that he works with, and he heard back that the CP3 form for Lakeville was updated with the notes that we do not have any formal town meeting approval projects. And he said that we should still be getting a match, that will not jeopardize a match. So I'm glad we did verify with Todd. I feel better about that. So that's the status, and as soon as town meeting does approve a project, I will enter it on the website. Chase said enter it as soon as you have that, because you have the information that's current in your mind, and it's actually due next September. But he said it's wise to enter it on the website as soon as you have an approval.
Can I ask what Chase is? Are you talking about Chase Bank?
No, Chase is the man at the coalition that I spoke with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know his last name. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry
Chase Bank,
sorry
I
about that. Yeah.
Chase Mack from the
Okay.
coalition. So we actually, so the dues that we're paying yearly goes to the coalition to help give us that information and the help and the assistance.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion about any of that? No? Okay, CPA professional services. There was some question at the last meeting about the line item in the budget that was paid out for the secretary who does our minutes. So I we couldn't really discuss it at the last meeting because it wasn't on the agenda, so I put it on the agenda if anyone would like to discuss it. It was, I can tell you exactly.
Is it $1,100, is that it?
It was 1,100. 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,100 that we paid for, and I can't tell you exactly how many meetings we had. In the beginning, we were having quite a few meetings and then they leveled out, but I can't give you an exact number. But, we received the minutes and we were charged for them, and I guess there was some question about it, and going forward, how's that gonna go?
Well, in the minutes that we're gonna be approving for September 29th, it clearly says right in here, Rich LaCAM stated that the town is providing secretarial services and legal services, and they are not charging for it, and we've been charged. And he also said it at the, FinCom meeting, when they were reviewing the warrant, when, we were trying to approve the budget, he once again stated that any services, legal or secretarial minutes would not be charged back, expenses were being absorbed by the town. So that to me is kind of a conflict. One minute they're telling us that we're not being charged, and then we get charged, so.
Was that for the first year though? Just the first year?
Well, I don't know, they never specified.
So I spoke to Ari about it, and his opinion is that one select board member can't represent what the town will be doing.
Correct, but Ari also corroborated what he said, he agreed with him at that FinCom meeting. He said, that's right, they won't be
Okay.
charged, so.
Yeah, so, he might not remember that, but,
Well,
so-
I can tell you, he can go
so-
back to 59 minutes and 37 seconds, because that's where it came up in the meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess I'll have
On
to
November 22nd.
Okay.
Oh, those aren't the you just said on the minutes that we were approving tonight.
And the second time
The second time that it was mentioned, I just wrote down that he also said it at the FinCom meeting when they were reviewing the warrant.
Okay, and where is it exactly on the ones, the September 29th that we're doing tonight?
Yep, let's see, the third paragraph down under our joint meeting part, it's the very last sentence.
Town is providing, and that they are not charging for, okay. Kathy?
Can I just note that, didn't the town allocate funds to the committee and you turned them down? Because I think Nancy, you had said that you told the town that it wasn't gonna cost them a dime, that you were gonna, and that was the point of doing your budget earlier, like as soon as you could at the fall town meeting.
Right, that wasn't me, though, that said that, I said,
No, I mean, you had
You
told,
as a committee.
you had told people that, you know, if you pass this, it's not gonna cost you a dime. It's not gonna go on the taxpayer, no?
no,
Okay.
I never said that, but it was said. I think it was
Well,
Michelle that
because,
said it.
because we do have administrative funds, which we did, you know, budget for at town meeting, but, so I guess if that's the case, anytime, so they were referring to legal fees and minutes, so now, I guess if we're gonna be charged for legal fees, I think we should be aware of that up front. Because it's just contradictory, that we were
Right.
told we weren't gonna be charged for minutes or legal fees.
And then we are.
And then, and if it was happening all along, why did it all come out at once, at the end of the year, rather than when each of these minutes were paid for?
Right.
So those are just the inconsistencies that I think.
But to clarify, Kathy, what you're talking about,
Yeah.
in the very beginning, when we first started, the town offered to give us $5,000 to
Right.
get started.
And
And
that-
I just need to clarify for myself, I'm
Okay.
like, we're crazy not to take that money. I was for taking the
That's
money,
right.
but as a committee, actually we voted to take it. And then when we had the coalition training and they came and advised us to put the budget to town meeting, we took another vote and voted not to take the 5,000.
Okay, so I
To
knew it was
rescind the
some- I
vote
knew
of
it was
taking the
something like that.
$5,000 because we were gonna have our
I
own
knew it was
budget.
something like that.
Well,
Right.
I think with the town offering the $5,000, they expected that the minute costs and other costs would have come out of that $5,000. And so I think that was the intent, was that, okay, here's 5,000, use it for minutes, if you have other legal stuff, if you have other printing, you know, like if we were gonna print the plan, if we needed any consultant, we would take it out of that 5,000. And so since we chose not to do that and appropriate our own 5%, that we already had our admin money allocated by town meeting, so through the CPC, so that's why.
So here- so-
That's why it's coming out of here.
Right, but my question now,
Yeah,
that I'm thinking about it, is, had we taken the $5,000 on September 29th?
mm-hmm,
Because we took the $5,000, we voted to take the $5,000
She just said that,
originally.
she just said that the plan was, or maybe Resnick just said that the plan was to take the minutes, the payment for the minutes out of that
That $5,000.
anyways. So, but that, once again, that wasn't communicated at the time,
yeah.
so,
Well, I mean, it was a huge learning experience, this
Right.
entire
So-
thing
Right.
So
for
it-
not just this board, but
I would
for
just say going
everybody.
forward, so there's not a big charge all at once. In order to review this and have some, we need to have something to match it to, we need the backup, we need to see what it's being spent on. So, you know, that way we're not, oh, we had legal fees, oh, when did we use that? Oh, it was months ago, and it just seems to be,
So on our monthly statements, we should have been seeing it all along. Like I say, this is, like Mark says, this is our first year, and maybe it just didn't catch up
Yeah.
monthly, and the minutes came, and I don't wanna say they came sporadically, but it took a while to get, I think we needed to get our spot. There's not a lot of people that take the minutes, we don't have a lot, it's hard to hire people, everybody knows these days it's hard to hire people. And there's only so many people, so we had to get our spot in with the people who were doing the minutes. And so our minutes came like, you know, not for a while, and then 2 at a time, then 3 at a time, and I think we're pretty much caught up except for our last meeting, as far as that goes.
Yeah, and I'll talk to whoever, whether it's Todd or it's somebody else at Town Hall, and find out who does the accounting for the minutes, you know, because that person takes minutes for multiple boards, and try and get it so that it's charged off to us on a more timely basis.
So that we
So you
see,
see it throughout the year. So-
And can you clarify that other committees have to pay for it too? That it's charged to other committees like
It
finance
is
and
charged
others?
to the ones that have their own funding source, such as like the Parks Commission but most of the other committees don't have separate funding sources, so you have a separate funding source. The park is a enterprise fund. I don't know what other
probably the
things.
land, the transfer station is
Yeah, I don't know,
enterprise
do
fund
they
too,
have
right?
Yeah, but I don't know if they have a board or a committee overseeing it.
Mark, so is the town gonna honor this, or we're gonna have to pay this? They're not gonna honor what they said in the beginning?
Well,
I
so
mean,
what they
that's
said,
not
it-
quite
yeah.
fair.
No, so they were gonna, the town was gonna fund you some admin money, so you wouldn't have to take the initial startup admin money out of
Yeah,
the CPC monies. And then out of that, you were gonna be able to use that for some of your expenses. But instead, we chose to
they voted it
use.
down.
Right. And so, because we chose to allocate our own admin money out of the funds that are collected, that's where the charges have to
That's where the
come from.
conflict is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just a little confusing.
Well, it's a little disheartening.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
mean-
think we need to correct the statement in the minutes, just to verify that this was incorrect.
Mhm.
Well, here's another thought, why don't we just do our own minutes and not get charged? Take turns doing minutes each meeting, and I mean, you can listen back to LakeCAM to do them, cause I know you have to pay attention during the meeting, but I
Do
wouldn't
we
have a
have a
problem.
secretary, Madam Chairman?
No.
Chairperson, no?
I mean, I'm interested in whether it's like $100 per meeting, or is it 200, like how many
Right, cause you don't see the breakdown, we
Right.
don't know how many was done, we
Exactly,
don't know
right.
how, you
I
know,
think
it's
were
about
these all
75?
CIC
I think
meetings?
so.
75,
And I
Kathy?
think if it's over so many hours, it's an additional
Right,
maybe
but
50.
because our meetings don't go that
Yeah.
long, it was about $75.
Okay.
Can we consider, if we're recording this, somebody just do the minutes off the
So-
recording?
But we're not
And
always
save ourselves
we're
some
not
money?
always recorded, we've been lucky,
Um,
but in the beginning, see, you
Can
weren't
we
here in
use
the
our own
beginning.
recording? Our own recording?
And that did not work out very well at all, because when we were recording it, it's hard for, I mean, we had to learn, we were new.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I personally have never just recorded a meeting and had to do minutes off it, and people weren't identifying, so I make a motion, I second it, all in favor, and there were no, so they didn't know who made the motion, who seconded it, and then we learned to say it the second time that we used the tape recorder.
Well, that's because we were using someone else, but I mean, we all pretty much know each other's voice.
And even
That-
if we're not on LakeCAM, that poses a problem for whoever does the minutes, so I think it's a good idea, if, you know, I'd be willing to do a set of minutes, take a turn.
We could rotate.
You know, I will say though, so you take 1,100 and you divide it by 75 and it comes out to 14.666. So either there was 14 and a half meetings that we got minutes for, or I don't know. So that is just another discrepancy, I guess.
I don't, Bill, we were having 2 meetings in the beginning, 2 meetings a month in the beginning. You know, and we've been going for 12 months, right? A year, cause we started in August,
Yeah.
Did we
But
started in
Nancy, I'm
August?
saying it's not an even number. So she said there's $75 per
I see.
set. So
Yeah, but it's after a certain hour, is it after an hour and a half, or?
I think it's after 2 hours, I'm not sure though,
Okay.
so I don't
Well,
wanna.
we'll try and get the breakdown for the next meeting, okay?
Well, are we gonna consider having our own group do the minutes, or?
Well, the only issue with that is that, you know, the select board would like some sort of consistency with the minutes, and that, you know, they all have a certain level of detail and a certain, you know, style to, and format to them, and that when you have lots of different people taking minutes, you know, one could be good, one could be just gloss over stuff, one could be way too detailed and like 10 page, you know, so I've seen that with other boards and committees over the years and other places where, not so much boards, but, you know, volunteer committees that give the point
Some of
for a
these
specific
committees,
thing.
excuse me, Mark, have
Through the chair, please.
templates, okay?
Paula,
Yeah.
through the chair, please.
Oh,
Okay,
Ms. Chairperson?
yes. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Some of the committees have templates, and if we all follow the same template, then we should be able to do our own minutes, and it would be consistent. Is that a
Well,
problem?
I mean, yeah, but when you're having discussions about certain topics, like what's important, what's not, when someone is regularly taking minutes, they just, you know, learn what's important to include, what's not, that type of thing, you know,
I think the minutes have been
and I
pretty
think
good.
the other thing is, yeah, the minutes are pretty good, and so the other thing is the person who's has to take the minutes that day, then, you know, is paying attention to taking minutes and not really participating, and you're here all to participate in the discussion, and not have to sit there and jot stuff down, so, you know.
I guess that was my point, is that I've been on plenty of committees. I can't take minutes and participate in the meeting and try to take the minutes,
Right.
because then I give my opinion, and by the time now I'm already behind on taking the minutes, so. And as chairman, you can ask Kathy how long it takes us sometimes to put the packets together. You know, I'm not interested in taking minutes.
Right, but-
I'm not either.
I mean, but the person that's taking the minutes for us is watching them on LakeCAM. They're not even present at this meeting. So it's the same thing.
But they have a packet. I usually send it out to the woman who's taking the minutes. I send her the information so she has an idea of what we're talking about, that she asked me to do that. So I send her the material so that she kind of, and the agenda, and she follows along.
Right, which we have as well.
Yeah. Now,
Anyway, so let's see, I'm not interested in taking minutes. Are you?
I'm not interested. I don't think it's a good idea. I think $35 an hour for minutes is a reasonable cost.
was it 35 or
Well,
75?
roughly, if it's
It's $75
$75
a
for
meeting.
2 hours,
Yeah,
it's about,
Is,
yeah.
is that a flat fee, whether
Yeah.
we do an hour or 2 hours?
Yes,
So
it's private, that's what it used to be, so I haven't,
yeah, I remember something like that, but I didn't know if it was an hour or a flat fee up to 2 hours, then we get charged after that.
I believe so.
So it's $75, it's not 35.
No,
But
I
she's
know, I was
saying
thinking
35 an
roughly
hour.
35 an hour,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
but we have to pay the 75
Cor-
regardless
yes.
of whether it's an hour or 2 hours.
Correct, yeah, I was just looking at the hourly.
Yeah,
rate.
and how much did that cost, how much would that cost us over a year?
$1,100 in the budget for a year of minutes.
Do we have that kind of money in the budget? I have to
We
ask.
had $6,000 in the budget for professional services.
Okay.
But if the money wasn't used, it would roll back over into the reserve fund. So
Oh,
it would go back into the big pot.
I see.
Can we do this? Can
Yes.
we wait till next month, if you can confirm the cost, and take a vote next month?
Do we need to have, what are we having a meeting for next month? Do we need to have a meeting next month? I was thinking we don't need to have a meeting, everything's in, so,
Oh, the next meeting we have,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Because town meeting in November is when we're gonna make our recommendation for the money that we approved at the last meeting,
So the next time we meet.
the next time we meet. Because we're already, haven't made that decision, so this meeting's already spent.
Well, I mean, if they're gonna get us additional documentation anyways, I don't see the problem waiting and
Okay.
just
Yeah.
taking a vote at that time, cause,
Okay.
you know, if maybe half of us are willing to, you know, write them, you know, a set of minutes, just, you know, out of,
Yeah.
you know, 8 or 9 people, I mean, it's not gonna be very often that you'd have to, you know, record a set of
Yeah,
minutes.
and if it's more than $75, that might change my mind, I didn't realize it went into the reserve fund at the end of the year.
Yeah, anything
So it's a
not
good
used
point.
for
Right,
that
goes
purpose.
back in.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
Okay, so, I will put it on our next agenda. So. Okay, next, this is something that Michelle asked me to put on, process for accepting future project applications.
Yeah.
I think you passed something out?
Yep, I did. So of course, leaving last meeting, it struck me that we just approved 3 projects to go to town meeting for funding, and first of all, we didn't use the checklist that we had come up with. We didn't send it to the coalition for review, and this is our first go-round. And I thought that it would probably be beneficial if we can come up with an actual process so that we can refer it when we have applications, just to make sure, because, you know, we won't always be the same members, there'll be changeover. So that way there'll be a process in place that anyone who needs to, review a project has to go off of. So I started coming up with, my own little, draft here. I thought anybody, you know, can add or discuss, you know, anything that you think should be added or omitted. And then I reached out to Stuart at the coalition just to see if he had any insight. and he talks a lot about the budget and seeing the breakdown of the budget, because there may be a line item in the budget that would not be covered by CPA funds, so that brings up the fact that we didn't even see like an actual quotation for work. We did, like our step 2 application, it says it right in the application, required attachments, cost proposals / estimates. And so we didn't even see, so I would have been on board with, the parks item for the plans, if it was only $22,000, but they were asking for $25,000 and we didn't even have a quotation. So maybe that quote would have been an actual number that falls below that $22,000, but we didn't get a quote. So now we're actually, we're setting it up, we're setting a precedent that now anybody who wants money doesn't have to send
Yeah, just give a blanket amount.
an estimate
Right.
or a quotation. So, I think this is just important to put in place going forward so that we're not sending to town meeting a project that has a round number that we don't even know what the breakdown is. Like I can see with the gravestones, that was pretty, straightforward. But it would have been nice to have it in writing, because what Mark said was different than what it showed on the application even. So it would have been nice to have it all in writing, I think.
Right,
in
and
that
I think, well,
application.
and I also think when it goes to town meeting, we all know, they wanna see a breakdown of everything, that they don't wanna see, okay, they want $25,000 for this project, well, what's it gonna be used for? These could be all shot down because it's not showing the line items in a quote of how much each, like the septic's gonna be, this is gonna be, each thing, instead of $25,000 for this project.
Well, so the thing is, when you budget for projects going to town meeting, usually, there's a long lead time, in which projects are conceived, and you talk to engineers or whatever other professionals you're gonna use, and you get a budget estimate, and then that's what you bring through the different committees and to town meeting, because by the time you either put it out to bid or you call whoever you're gonna use for that contract, prices can fluctuate up or down, costs of services, costs of materials. So that's why generally, most, even all the capital items that are on town meeting are round number capital items. So, I think that's probably.
Especially when you're looking at engineered plans,
Mhm.
right? Because wasn't that the estimate from the
Right.
from the engineer?
But we didn't see an estimate.
Yeah, well, there was no written estimate, it was based on discussions, which is what a lot of these things are.
And I can say that going into the coalition website, completed projects, I started with the A's, and the first town that I went into, they luckily they had all their information online available, so they actually had a full estimate breakdown of, labor, materials, everything. Because if you read from the coalition, this is what you have to see, because if it's not something allowable by CPA funds, you can have it rejected. It may not be covered. So I think going forward, we just need to make sure that we're crossing all our T's and dotting our I's.
I thought the historic one was pretty, cause I had to go to Mass Historic, if it makes it by Mass Historic, how,
And it's also, we're only using it if there's a contingency, if
Right.
it's over 60,000.
right? All right, so the problem I have with this is that, Michelle, you asked me to put this on the agenda, so I did. I can't read this at the meeting. I mean, I would like to be able to digest this letter
Well,
from
I
the
just-
coalition.
I
No, wait,
just got
please let me
this
finish.
this afternoon,
Could you please
so.
let me finish?
I printed it out because that's what
Right.
you'd asked last time.
Right, but I think we need to have I don't wanna say rule, but I think we need to see the stuff in advance instead of handing it out at the meeting. If you ask to put something on the agenda, I think it has to have the supporting or the documentation to go in the packet. Because when I put something on the agenda, there's always something in the packet. I
I
mean,
didn't
this
even
is,
think we had a packet this week.
well, we really didn't, but we would have if you had given me this. I would have made sure everybody got it, because nobody gets to see it until sitting here at the meeting, and it's hard to digest, and this is the first time I've ever heard anything like, we have to send our things for approval past the coalition. I'm just,
I mean, it's what, 4 paragraphs?
Do
I
we,
mean,
excuse me, Madam
Yeah.
Chair, do we have to send everything to the coalition?
we don't have to, but it's a service that we're paying for. We're using CPA funds to pay for that service, so why not use it?
Right, especially this is our first go around.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we have them review just to make sure we've done everything correctly?
And I don't think,
Is it within our documents someplace? That we're supposed to send it to the?
No, but it's
Oh,
a
okay.
service
So
that
the-
they provide, and I
The
mean,
fact that we
it's,
didn't do that before we approved it is because it's not in here.
right.
Okay. I'm just trying to find it and I can't find it, that's why I'm asking.
Well, we never discussed it. We never
No.
discussed sending our
Wasn't part of
application
the
to the
step by
coalition,
steps.
right?
right, but this is our
'Cause we
first
would
go
have
around.
to
You'd think that we'd
feed
wanna get everything done, right, that's
Madam
all.
Chair, we would have to add that into our timeline, which we didn't do,
Right.
you know?
right.
So-
But that was my point with coming up with like a
Well, his-
process.
Yeah, well,
so we
his
can
letter,
have-
right, but his letter is specific to something that's not really part of what
No, he's just giving an example. I'm not saying that any of our projects would fail the criteria, but I'm just saying as going forward, as a process to put in place so that it's not missed, or we don't have something that goes through this committee, through town meeting, and then is kicked back saying, sorry, but it's not, not gonna be funded, so.
Is it appropriate for us to ask for that now, before the town?
I don't think so. I think that's why I would like to come up with a process for going forward. That's why for the agenda item, it was, process for accepting future projects. So I'm not talking about these projects. I'm saying for the future, come up with a process. So that we're not looking back saying, we should have used the coalition. We paid
So
for that
we-
service, so.
Madam Chair, we have the authority to revise our plan, right?
Yes,
Our
every year.
plan can be revised, so maybe we need to have like either annual revision set on a schedule or something
Yeah, every
like
year,
that.
I think we would, like, next year we'll add the projects that we did. And if we wanna, going forward, if we wanna do that,
Well, we'll also have to need to set new dates for applications as well.
so then when we move on to the next year, we'll
Doesn't change
look at it
anything.
again.
Doesn't change anything.
Well, the part about the checklist, we should have had a checklist and
Mhm.
gone over the checklist, because we worked hard on making all the criteria in the checklist.
We didn't have it in our packet though, right?
Yeah, no, we didn't.
I think it was discussed at the May 5th meeting,
Right,
but we don't have those minutes, I don't think.
right. But this is our first year, and this is
Right, and
the
that's
growth process.
Right, so that's my point, that maybe we should have had the coalition look at these applications just to make sure that we did everything proper and correct.
I wouldn't want to say that every project moving forward goes through the coalition.
No, I'm just saying the
Yeah.
first year we probably should have done that.
It's something we could have considered. I don't know if I would have even agreed to that. I just think we are an independent
I mean,
committee.
unless there's some sort of, reason to
Yeah.
understand, let's say it's a complicated budget, more than just the example in this letter of furniture, right?
Right.
But let's say it is a complicated budget and there's things that we're not entirely sure may be reimbursable or not. I mean, I think that's wise to send that and get their opinion. I mean, again, it's an opinion
Yeah.
you can follow, but,
We could do a project by project.
mhm.
Yeah.
This seems really complicated, let's
Right.
send it by for a review, or,
Yep.
And the
whatever, but
three
not-
we had this year were pretty straightforward and pretty simple, but, moving forward, who knows what you're gonna get, so.
I do think requesting a budget is a good point. Itemized budget in each application, and us using the checklist is a good idea.
And what,
Yes.
so the, under the second item, review step 2 application for completeness, one of the bullet points I said is discuss adding checkboxes to the list of requirement, required backup documentation. So we have, you know, the required attachments, like if we put a checkbox, that way they know that you're supposed to be checking these off. Not just, you know, this is if it applies, cause that, it says applicable.
Yeah, well, because some of those things, you know, clearly weren't applicable to the applications we had this year.
But well, right, but still, to have a checkbox, I think it kind of makes them think, oh, well, maybe I need to provide these things.
So, I'm just trying to think, where in the process of the year are we going to work on the plan for next year where we do these things?
It would be after we have a public hearing and invite the public again. So we'd have a public hearing, get input, and then we'd revise the plan.
So basically, you wanted more details about the applications for completeness.
I just thought a process, like if we come up with a process, maybe we include it in our plan. That way we have, you know, something for this committee even to go off of.
Yeah,
Like I said, if members change and people aren't familiar with the process, that we have something to reference. This is what you do, you know, this is the process for,
okay.
Depending
It's a
on
check,
project.
check,
yeah, just,
When we update our plan every year, does that call for a public hearing every time
It
we
does,
just
yes.
update our plan?
If we're gonna update the plan, if there's no reason to update the plan, then
that is, I believe that's
We're supposed to have a public hearing every year
Yeah, the
anyways,
main-
regardless.
the main charge is to hold a
Public hearing.
public hearing once
Once
a
a
year
year.
to garner, you know, people's opinions, how they wanna use their funds.
How they wanna use the funds. So, we worked on that checklist. We didn't have the size of a project to go over every piece of it.
If we,
Shouldn't we be giving it a chance, cause we worked for a whole year putting that plan together, and we didn't probably maybe we didn't utilize it like we should have? So why aren't we giving it another chance? If we made an error and not using the checklist, then why aren't we gonna try, we worked a whole year on putting that all together.
I'm not saying throwing it out, I'm
Right.
literally just saying
We didn't use it
possibly adding
correctly.
you know, a box next to.
well,
I don't think we even discussed the fact that we were gonna check everything off. I
Right.
think we put this, didn't we please attach the following with the understanding these 3 things had to come into step 1?
Yep.
And then on the back of step 2, page 26, there's a whole list here of all the things that people were required attachments as applicable. So didn't we check, I looked at everything, I thought everything was there.
Yeah,
I don't think we formally did it as a group and said, yes,
But we were gonna do a
need to
rating
that.
system and all of that as
Yeah,
well.
I thought we
Right.
had created a checklist for
Yeah.
us, so
We
that
did.
we
Yeah.
reviewed the
that's,
applications.
when all the projects
Right.
came in, I kind of checked it against what you required.
So
Um,
I think
there
I
was-
think we
definitely
all
did
did.
formally-
Yeah.
Yes, I think we
But
all did it
we didn't-
individually.
We didn't go over it as a group, but I
I
think
never printed it.
individually,
Well, I
we
think if
looked at it.
anybody had seen any holes in any of the applications, we would have said it
Oh,
at
is this
step
it?
1, and then especially at step 2, because we had allowed them to go to the second step.
Right.
So are we gonna do this at step 1 or step 2 in the future? What was your thinking?
The process, I think it would just be something to reference as we reviewed the projects, you know, from the get-go, I guess. You know, utilize the checklist.
To begin with, we did that as step 1.
Yeah.
And then we decided that they qualified. They went to step 2, Now, are we doing another checklist
And
of
so
step
for the
two?
step two, I would just say, you know, for the, on that page 26,
Yeah.
the required attachments, yes, it says cost proposals / estimates. But we didn't get any proposals or estimates.
Because not always did they have the contractors in place to give those quotes.
You don't have to have a contractor in place, you can still get a
You
quotation.
have an estimate, I think.
Yeah,
So
well,
an estimate from the engineer was $25,000,
Right.
so
But we
it
didn't
wasn't
see it. We didn't
attached
see it.
as a piece
Yeah,
of
on
paper.
this letterhead.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, I understand,
it was
because
there.
he didn't have it documented,
Correct.
Right,
okay, and it was hearsay, all right, I understand.
So maybe it needs to be documented before we go to town meeting, Mark?
No. I mean, at this point, you've already submitted those applications for town meeting, so, I mean, those, but I think just moving forward, even for rough estimates, you'll want to do that, so.
But we can't do this at this point, this is all approved and going forward.
Yeah, I
And
think.
the other
I think
issue
at
is
this
that they're all three town departments that actually applied.
Mhm,
Cemetery
right.
Commission, Historical, and
Parks.
Parks. So I mean, it's not like we have a private entity out there who's
Right.
doing anything. It's all us.
That's a good point, actually.
You
I
mean
think
the
if it was a
engineer did it
private
for all of us,
entity, we
No,
probably
that-
would have been,
that we are all, it's all town government,
right.
committees that
Isn't it a
apply
private
for the money.
entity for the gravestones?
So they,
though?
we had
Somebody
to
else is
have
doing it.
information.
Well, the contractor is, but the cemetery commission is actually the ones who put it in, so it is, that's a town entity.
Yeah.
Cemetery Commission, yes.
Yeah,
But they have to hire somebody to do it,
Right.
and that was their choice.
It's just like the person who did the, thing for the Historical Commission was already involved with the evaluation and things through, I believe, the, grant from Mass Historical too, so we just piggybacked on that.
So that would
So,
be the
and,
cost
and
estimate.
on the follow-up, when it starts happening, all those things that we had run by Todd that have to happen, that's when that comes in,
It also has to be documented,
right?
bill of lading or whatever.
Right, so that kinda
It's a
happens. So even if they did an estimate of the $25,000 as the project goes, they're gonna have to come to us at each step with all that documentation. That's what we're keeping an eye on, or that's what Mark would be keeping an eye on.
But you really should have a comparison to go off of. Is this matching what you had in the beginning too? So, cause you're not gonna have anything to compare it to. You're just gonna be now blindly, you know, moving forward
We
with
could
it.
be asked at the town meeting, what is the detail of the proposal?
right.
For the gravestones, the detail of the proposal for the roof. We could be asked that, so it might, I don't think it would hurt us to go back and say, can you get that cost estimate?
Go
For
back and
additional
pull it out of the
documentation.
application,
Well, it's
actually.
not in here though. So we would have to go back to say cemetery commission and say, can you provide us with a specific cost estimate on the letterhead of the entity that will be doing the work?
And it doesn't have to be whoever does the work, but just an estimate showing that this is the going rate.
Yeah,
that's reasonable.
and it's really for us and for us to have this information and for future knowledge, but also to be able to answer questions if we need to.
So do we really need to change anything in the plan to do that?
No,
No.
I think everything is outlined, we just didn't
We
pay
did- yeah,
attention to the
exactly.
detail
Right.
of getting a written
The formal.
document,
A formal detail.
Right,
Right.
and if we had that checklist,
yeah,
we would have
Right.
maybe picked up on that.
yeah.
All right, well,
Yeah,
it's our first year,
right, well, it covers us to do the right thing.
yeah.
Did we intend to use this page 16 and 17 in the plan, the general evaluation criteria when we're reviewing projects?
Yes, but I think we all did.
That was what was used. to make this
Yeah,
checklist that Kathy
yeah.
came up with for us.
Right.
Okay, so that's
Right.
the
Yes.
same information,
Right.
yes, okay.
It was duplicated. over
Right.
the-
So we should have had this passed out when we were going over the
That's a
project.
good point.
Yeah, we probably
Yeah.
should just, going
Right.
forward, keep it with,
Right.
every application should
Okay.
come with
Yeah.
one of those.
All right.
Mhm. It's a good point.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But I think we all individually, I know I went and looked, I think we all kind of looked at it individually, we just didn't do just like, having the documentation that we didn't actually do
Right,
it.
yeah, and I'm
think
not
we all
saying that,
reviewed
yeah,
it.
obviously it's fresh in our minds, we just completed the plan, but that may not always be the case.
You're right, you're right.
Yeah, and we have something to go back on if it's documented.
Yeah, yeah.
So are we gonna take a vote on this?
So I think we should thinking about town meeting, I think we should have a packet to go out at town meeting.
A packet for,
A handout?
Not a handout, not a packet. We don't want
please.
want people to pay attention.
Like a brief description
Yes.
of each proposal.
Yes, yes. With cost estimates.
Yes.
Well, the planning board, we usually write up like a one paragraph description of what this article will do X. So we can do the same thing for this. You have 3 proposals. The first proposal will do X, just like we just described in front of the committee. We can describe what a short little paragraph about what the proposal is and how much they're looking for, so that they can match it up to the article, because the article is just to raise, to.
Is the article
take
gonna
to-
be all 3 lumped into one?
I believe so.
Hmm.
But as usual, you can put a hold on one and have a separate discussion about it.
So potentially they could vote for the whole package, or say no to the whole package instead of doing them separately, unless they do a hold.
Yeah.
So, do we wanna have another meeting before town meeting? So we see what's going out in case we wanna add or subtract something to it. So, town meeting's November 13th,
Right.
right? So do we wanna meet at the beginning of November or at the end of October?
It's the end of October.
Yeah.
End of October. Let's see, Tuesday, Halloween is on a Tuesday. Or November 2nd, that's election day, we can't.
We could get dressed up.
Everything will be printed by then, right? By November 7th.
About the 24th of October.
October 24th, that's the 2nd, 4th, I have a Concom here,
What day of the week is that?
Tuesday,
Tuesdays.
26th. I mean, what days,
planning
we've always
board.
had trouble in the past, what days this time are good for everybody?
I can't do Thursdays in the
Okay.
evening.
So, we've been doing well on a Tuesday. So, the 17th?
Yeah.
Cause everything will not be printed by then, probably.
So we can
So,
review it beforehand, that's probably a better idea.
the 17th?
Yeah.
So October 17th? How's everybody looking on that?
That's good.
That's a Tuesday?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Are we writing up the one paragraph description for each project, or does the planning, no, does the town do that?
We'll write it up.
well,
I mean, if you want, or I'll work with Nancy.
yeah, and then we'll bring it to the meeting on the 17th so everybody can approve it, or not, or add or subtract, or, oh, how about this?
Look at it.
Okay, so we all can have input? All right.
What time? 6:30? Back to 6:30?
Back to 6:30, is that all right for
Doesn't matter to
everybody?
me.
6:30?
6:30 or
But,
7, which is it?
Sue had asked for 7 because of the summer and her job, so we had gone to 7 for the summer, but we're going to October, so we can go back to 6:30 if that's
Is that
okay
okay
with
with you?
everybody. I'll try to remember, not like that time at the senior center, we're all sitting home on my way to get a cup of coffee. What? Alright, so just to repeat myself, please, if you wanna put anything on the agenda, please get me this supporting stuff so that I can put it in the packet, okay? Ground control.
I will do as
Okay.
best I can, but like I said, this came in this afternoon, I wasn't even at work, I couldn't even print it, I asked Sue to print it, so.
Okay,
I brought it in like you asked.
okay. Anybody else having, oh, we gotta have the minutes, we have to approve the minutes.
Well, so what about the process though, are we
Or the
are we
signs?
gonna come up with a process for reviewing applications?
Well, we're gonna use the checklist that we all worked on.
So just the checklist?
Well, we'll just take it out of the plan, copy it,
Yeah.
and put little boxes for the checklist.
I think that's very
And
comprehensive.
make sure that we do the details,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, but what about so my, people coming in, they may not understand that the coalition offers it as a service to review our projects. Are
I'm
we gonna
sorry?
just pay for that service and never utilize it?
Well, but we might utilize it
We
in the
might
future.
utilize it, we could utilize it.
But
There's
so
no-
we are aware of it, but maybe going forward, new members aren't gonna be aware of it. So
Well-
that would be my thought with the process. Just
And how would you make them aware? You're going
like
to,
if there is a process that we put in place that,
Well,
I'd say-
here's the thing, is that Kathleen needed help, so she called the coalition. I think that we vote on paying the dues every year. I think that anybody on the committee is gonna be aware that the coalition is there, that we're paying for at their advice. So, I don't think it has to be,
excuse me, Madam Chairman,
yes,
Chairperson. Is one person gonna contact the coalition, or are you saying that everybody contacts the coalition for whatever?
well, here's the thing, is that Kathleen, we asked Kathleen to do the CP3 last time, because Kathleen did a really excellent job on the survey. So we thought that was in her wheelhouse, and so we put her in charge of that, and she was having trouble, so she called the coalition
Okay.
for help. So I think the same thing with Michelle was
She had questions?
looking online and said that that was a service they provided, so she brought it to the
So-
committee, but I don't think we need to
Designate a person?
put it in the plan. I mean,
I don't know about the
Make a
plan, but I think
suggestion? Yeah.
awareness is very important.
yes, it is. Kathy,
So if you have the criteria in front of it for each project and you're going through it, why not just an extra line at the bottom? Does this project require a review by the coalition? And
I like
you
that.
can decide right there.
There you
That's-
go,
that
I like
seems
that.
good enough to me. Good idea,
Oh,
Kathy.
you're on top of the game.
so on the application, you're
No,
saying?
on the
The
criteria
checklist.
list, which now, I'm already thinking, so every time you get the project, we'll put that right on top, so as you're reviewing it, you can go right through it and right at the bottom to add that.
Yeah, and it may be like the cemetery commission. One thing to pay a contractor to come in and fix some stones, so there's not a question about, cost not eligible and that type of thing. But you might have something with 10 different pieces to it, and that one you may, want to discuss and go, yeah, well, we have a question about a couple of these things, and let's get somebody else's opinion. Still doesn't mean you have to follow along, but it might be a helpful thing, so.
Then
So how
whether
should
you
we,
knew or
how do we
not.
say it again, so if we're gonna vote on it?
I wouldn't use the word require.
Right, I wouldn't either, that's why I was trying to think of it.
Should this project be reviewed by the coalition? Something as simple
Or should it be sent to them for review?
Reviewable by coalition?
Say again?
Reviewable by coalition? Question mark?
Yeah, like any open questions that need coalition input, something like that.
Should this project be reviewed by coalition?
Yeah.
So if you have your yes or no listed there, then it would eliminate any questioning that we didn't actually
Yeah.
review that fact.
Yep.
So I'll move to add, should this project be reviewed by coalition to our general evaluation criteria checklist?
Second.
Motion and second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kathy. Are you coming to all our meetings? Okay, so that was relatively easy after all.
Are we gonna talk about CPA signs?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
sorry. Signs identifying CPA funded projects. That, I don't remember who brought it up. I thought it was you, Paula, but oh, it was Nancy.
At the Soul Farm in Middleborough has received a CPA, project that was approved at town meeting to do repairs to the farmhouse. And they have a sign this big that says, it has the seal of Middleborough on it, says something like, this is a Middleborough supported CPA project or something. So it's just one of those like, stick in the ground
like
type of
Running
thing.
for selectman kind of a sign.
But I think
yeah.
I have seen, traveling around Massachusetts, I have seen huge, 8-foot plywood sheets, huge ones that had a lot more information and all kinds of photograph or picture or something. So,
It's on the coalition website, they have like a whole page with all different towns that have signs, different types of signs that they've put at different projects. And like you said, some are huge, like monuments,
and these are not little projects either, these are tremendous sized
right,
projects.
like housing.
The amount of money that was listed on the
Right.
signage.
So how big do you want the sign to be?
Well, I don't know if some of it has to do, they might have had a little sign to begin with, and maybe when the project got underway, then they would, because you have to wait for town meeting, you can't have the sign made before the town approves it.
Right.
So, it might be something that you have this little thing that goes in the ground after town meeting, and then when they start actually doing something, people say, what's going on here? You have a bigger sign.
So how about if we, bring some examples to our meeting October 17th?
Photographs?
Yeah.
I mean, well, some communities spend like,
A lot of bucks.
a lot of money doing a 4-by-8-foot sign, whether it's funded through CPA or other grant projects. I mean, I've been in communities where I've had to do it, it's like required.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, and there's like $500, $1,000 right there. And so, I mean, I like the idea after thinking about it, because Nancy mentioned it the other day, and I was like, yeah, those little signs. But those little signs, you pre-make a bunch of them, and then at each project site, they have to put up 1 or 2, and they're inexpensive enough that if they fade or get damaged, you can give them another one to put up. I think we ought to work on the design to get something attractive and make sure it's big enough so that it's visible from the street, and whether they're, a little nicer than the I'm running for selectmen signs. But I think a standard sign rather than having custom-made signs for every project, would be useful in having,
I thought was we get a few,
Who
so
made
that
the sign for the
future.
elementary school?
oh, I don't know.
Oh, there's a big sign there about the window project.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not involved in the window project.
But also,
But someone did the sign.
Yes, yeah, I mean, I can find out, who did
That's a
the
big
sign.
sign.
Or do you want a second step, start with a little
Yeah,
sign, and then as the project
Yeah.
moves forward, a bigger sign? Is that what you're?
No, I think we should just order,
one big sign.
a medium-sized
Yeah,
sign, okay, that we get, order multiple of, so it's cost-effective and we can reuse them for different projects
Right, and you
as
can
time
get
goes
one,
on.
you know, those ones you stick in the ground can be made either, if they're a little bigger, but they can be made better. I have a volunteer that would do it in wood, was that it would stay in the ground, pound it in and it would stick up a little higher,
Yeah,
so.
so the wind wouldn't take it.
Yeah, cause those little ones are so flimsy, Bob. You
And I'm
can't
almost,
just make a wood frame for it with a stake and then it's gonna stay there and it's gonna stick up a little higher, cause those are so low on the ground. Those little signs,
And
just
they're hard to
those
read.
wires are crazy.
Yeah, I'll get some information on some signage and rough costs and
I'm thinking
something like
something
that.
more like, almost like a monochromatic, like maybe metal on a wooden stake that looks nice, instead of like a plastic red
Yes.
and white
Yeah,
sign.
yeah, no.
Something,
Yeah.
you know, that is tasteful.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm okay with something small, cause I think when we were campaigning, I was in Yarmouth, I'm like, look at this, and, you know, Yarmouth had just a little one that said, you know, this park was funded by CPA, or, you know, Yarmouth CPA funds.
right. Now, sometimes they have permanent plaques,
Right,
right, and that's different than,
oh, we're talking about temporary?
I'm talking
Yeah,
about during
just,
construction.
During
Yeah,
construction
so people
projects,
know
so
where the
people,
money's
yeah.
going,
Yeah.
yes.
I
We're
mean,
just talking about temporary,
yeah.
that's why I say the plastic ones would be fine with a frame on them and a stake.
Okay.
Excuse me, is this gonna be a generic, so that if the park wasn't, if it wasn't at the John Pond Park, then you could use it for
Right, everywhere. yeah.
everywhere? Okay,
Yeah.
so it will be a generic signage, okay.
So we'll bring examples to
Mhm.
our October 17th meeting, and then we can look at a few different designs and colors and whatever we think is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you wanna require permanent signs.
I've seen plaques though on buildings that
Yeah,
say
I
this
mean,
building was
sometimes,
Yeah, it
Right.
depends on what the
Restoration.
project
paid
is,
for by CPA.
yeah.
Grant.
Does that get expensive when you start doing plaques?
But could you put that on the applicant rather than on
Well,
us? Yeah,
usually it's an administrative cost of the grant
Okay.
program, I mean, and usually those, you're talking like lots of money. You know, the window project is a huge grant that the town received in order to do that, so it's a very small item, yes, it costs more than what we're talking about.
Right, but if we did like a big affordable housing project or something,
Mhm,
you'd want a
right.
plaque in
You'd
the.
want something,
Right.
yes.
and Mass Historic, they require it, right,
Right.
on
I
your
think
project.
this is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
many of the grant programs, particularly through the
Is it
state, require it.
possible, excuse me, is it possible that the contractor might give us a sign as part of their contract?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
You don't know until you ask.
I know.
well, we had to do that at Tamarack Park, I remember we had like one day, the guy was coming down to get the sign up and there, that's how it got named Tamarack Park instantaneously.
Who did that, the contractor or you, or the,
Rita and I did it.
oh, okay. All right. It's just a thought, it, you know, might be something you might wanna add to the contractor's estimate. If he wins the contract, would he be willing to give us a sign, I don't know, 2 by 3 feet or whatever dimension? You'd be surprised.
Yeah, but then you're relying
Yeah,
on them
yeah.
with the design and all, and we want all ours to be, so people recognize that if all our signs are the same, people are gonna recognize that sign, so it's, after they've seen it once, they drive by and see another one just like it, they're like, oh, that's another CPA project, without having an accident, looking at the sign.
Right. No, it's just a thought, let's try to save us some money.
Okay,
Alright, so, we'll have examples at our next meeting. Alright, so the minutes. Wonder what happened to Barbara tonight, too? That's who was missing, is Barbara.
She had another meeting.
So these minutes are still, like, are these any different from the first?
No,
we
and I
reviewed
don't
them?
remember, to tell you the truth, what the problem was the first time
So-
around, but I asked Lillian about these minutes and she said they were appropriate.
Is it? So
Yes.
even though they don't match what the select board approved and posted for minutes?
Right,
I thought they're supposed to match.
I asked
How do you
Lillian
know
and
the
she said these were fine, I don't, what's different about them, that the selectmen's meeting went on further?
It's just not the same.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, if they were taken by somebody else, as long as they represent the same discussions and same votes and
That's
same
fine.
people present.
Yeah, like I said, I asked Lillian.
Okay.
So, motion? To approve these minutes.
Second.
I have to abstain,
Right.
it's not a member.
So,
Okay,
I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't think I can vote.
It says you are. Oh, no, absent. Yep, you're right. I'll second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Next meeting, October 17th at 6:30 PM.